We back, baby. The long-awaited video is finally here, and boy does it feel good to be playing this game. And of course, your boy had to play on the next to hardest difficulty, as I feel playing on the harder difficulties makes me more immersed into the game and gives me more of a challenge and more play time. So as I'm writing this right now, I feel pretty strong about finishing the game on the hardest difficulty, but if I bring it down, I will let you know. Opening of video games is quite important to me, as I feel it grasps me into the game and makes me invested into it. A good example is Red Dead Redemption 2. I feel the opening is really slow on repeated playthroughs. It's a pain in the ass, but when you're playing it for the first time, it's an incredible introduction where you get to introduce into the gang members, the different mechanics, how you get into cover and whatnot. Metro Last Light doesn't hold back, as we quickly get an opening of Artyom just chilling around a campfire but quickly surrounded by the Dark Ones, and as we attack them we slowly realize that they're doing something to our mind to make us believe that our fellow comrades are some creatures when in reality they're just humans. Artyom wakes up by our sweet dear boy from the first game, Khan, and we realize that it was just a nightmare. Khan woke us up because he saw a Dark One up above, and it's a huge issue towards the Rangers as they are the bad guys, but Khan is thinking that we did the wrong thing with bombing their nest. This also goes back into the first game where I said that the bombing of the nest is the canon ending to it, and it makes sense as the game would not really be a second game if we didn't bomb the nest. Like, the whole concept of this storyline is that we did in fact bomb the Dark One's nest. Something that I mentioned in my first video is how the audio is kind of bad, and it unfortunately comes over onto the second game, but I still feel the same way about it. Like, it just makes me more immersed into the game with people being cramped up in these small rooms, toilets and whatnot, and you can't really figure out who's talking to you, or if they're talking to someone else, or if they're just whimpering or whatever.
Quit whining. It's a gift from your ancestors. Enough to survive down here for decades. Maybe until the world up there will take us back.
Our patrol outside could be the last.
So we learned that Artyom is a ranger now. It's basically the group from the first game, and we can already see that the game has already changed massively with the amount of guns you can have and the way you can customize them. This is a huge improvement for me, as it gives me selections of the guns you can have. Like, you can choose a sniper with a pistol, or the different AKs, or a different shotgun, the bolting pistol or rifle or whatever. And even though I criticize the audio a bit, I still think it's a huge improvement here with the sound design, especially with the guns. Like, the AK really feels like the AK, like you feel like you're shooting a high velocity power rifle. And even when you're walking through the empty different stations, or like going outside, walking on grass or glass, it all feels amazing. Exploring the area we're in, we can see that the Rangers took shelter in D6 and took over it from the first game and turned it into an operation base. So Khan actually wants to go to Miller and tell him that there is a Dark One, as he wants to convince him that he isn't a friend and he can actually be a friend. But when we're going to Miller, we can see that there are some soldiers talking about a guy named Litninsky being taken away from his laboratory, and eventually hearing that there might be rumors that there's more than we know, that he might be a traitor or something. Foreshadowing. Khan explains further about the Dark Ones, that we might have done the wrong thing by bombing their nest, and what if they were just protecting themselves and actually were trying to communicate with us. But they couldn't do that except for Artyom, as it seems he has a special link to them that allows him to communicate with them somehow, like a brain link, like they can hear each other's thoughts. Going to Miller, he says that the best course of action is to kill the last Dark One, as they pose a threat to them, and Khan disagrees, of course, and is tossed out because he disagreed with Miller. So we, being the ultra fucking Chad we are tasked to find the Dark One and kill it with the best sniper in the Rangers, apparently, Anna, who's Miller's daughter. And for the love of God, stop calling me Rabbit.
Come along, Rabbit. Come on, Rabbit. Little Rabbit. That's a good sign, Rabbit. Then we'll see if you're Rabbit or not. It's way out of your reach, Rabbit.
Finally get a chance to go outside with Anna, and the world is as beautiful as ever. I don't know how it's so ruined and ugly, but it's so beautiful at the same time. like seeing the collapsed buildings with the overgrown plants and seeing how the world evolves as the humans are no longer on the surface. I think the developers did a really stellar job with the outside world. Anna gets into a position where she can overlook to us while we go through the rubble to find the Dark One, and when we find him, he manages to get into our head for long enough for us to get captured by the Nazis. While Artyom is out here sleeping, I have to say a big issue for me playing on the next to hardest difficulty is that some parts of the UI are disabled, which is fine until you realize you're fucking yourself over with it. So in the first game you had weapons on the ground, right? They lit up, you got a prompt saying that, oh, do you want to switch your weapons? Well, you don't have that in the second game. This has actually fucked me over multiple times, and especially fucked me over during this playthrough, because there was one point where I realized that I could knock out the enemies, because I always knew you could knock them out, but I just didn't know how. I only knew the button for meleeing them, basically killing them, but I was just like, oh shit, I can actually knock them out, but the UI didn't tell me because I was playing on the hardest difficulty. I don't really know what the developers were thinking, as even in the tutorial of the game, the UI is disabled, and I had to go multiple times into the menu to see the controls, because you have new controls and new set of moves that you do in this game that you didn't do in the first one. And I've only played Exodus on my PS5, and I played the first game on my PC, so I had no fucking idea what controls are what. And you might argue that the mode is for veteran Metro players, but I've played the first and the last game in the franchise, and I've had like fucking troubles. I would maybe consider myself a veteran in these games, and even I had troubles with it. The problem is that the controls are so different in all of the 3 different games, and you have new mechanics in all of the 3 games. It doesn't help if you've played all the games on different platforms, because there are way different controls there. On the PS5 you have like the up pad to do this, on PC you press V, on fucking Nintendo Switch you fucking toss out that shitty ass console, you know. So it kinda defeats the purpose. Like, I understand having higher difficulties limiting the UI, but it's when it's crucial parts like picking up weapons or knocking down enemies or initiating dialogue with a certain NPC, I think they should have enabled those parts of the UI but disabled the rest of them. But Artyom finally wakes up and we notice that he's in a prison, so we need to escape, and luckily for us there's a person who can help us. Pavel. Pavel is a communist, and he knows that we do not share the same viewpoints as him, but he realizes that it's better if you're working together and try to get out of here together instead of trying to one-man it. We sneak through the prison and we can see there's a lot of other prisoners there, and we notice as well that the Nazis have a failsafe in order, if there's an alarm that gets hit, they will release a toxic gas across all the prisoners. So it's really important, and it got me kind of tense thinking like, oh shit, I cannot raise the alarm and I need to consider who I'm killing, you know, because I don't want to die and I don't want to kill all these other prisoners. But luckily we managed to get out of the prison and go to the surface yet again, and like I said, I just love how the outside is. This is something this video franchise really sells well. Another improvement the game does is with the companions, especially with Pavel. It feels kind of a bit refreshing to have a more serious type of a companion, because whilst Pavel still jokes around and it's like being playful around all these monsters and everything, he still feels serious as he knows what he's doing. He's like always telling us, even back in prison, he's like, oh, turn off the lights, stay to the shadows, you know, don't attract any unnecessary attention, don't just shoot to kill, just plan out your route beforehand and everything. When we're outside, we're forced to go through a plane that crashed many years ago, and when we get on the plane, we start getting flashbacks from the dead people who were once on this plane. This is another improvement from the first game, is that they show the life before the war, before everyone went to the metro, that I really like, because I find it so interesting that you're used to this grimy, like monster looking type world, and then when you get these flashbacks you're like, holy shit, this is like a utopia, you know, this is like a whole different world, when in reality it's just sort of the world we live in right now. We encountered a few monsters and finally push through to the theater. That is a station that you can take shelter for now, and yes, there is a theater in the metro station theater with questionable shows, to be honest. After that amazing of a show, we take a drink with Pavel before heading towards our destination, but oh no, Pavel betrays us and reveals to Artyom that he is more valuable to him alive and that he can extract some information from him. But that's not the biggest revelation we get, as we later find out that Pavel is actually bald.
Yo, Randy, you bald as shit.
We're taken by the communists into some sort of interrogation room where we can see some generals talking to each other and then his son that seems reluctant to his torture. They pump us full of this truth serum that I didn't really fully understand, and they didn't really like develop more on it because it seems yellow here in the cutscene, right? And then later on in the game I found a yellow vial, so I'm like, oh shit, when I find Pavel I can just inject him with the truth serum to get the truth about what his main goal is, you know. But in reality it was just like a Molotov grenade. But we are rescued by the son that seemed reluctant to the torture, as he thinks we did nothing wrong and we don't deserve this kind of torture from his dad, as he speaks like, oh, you've tortured plenty other people, they don't deserve it and everything. But one interesting detail is while we're inside the communist base, as soon as we leave it with our equipment, we can actually see a picture of Khan, implying that he was maybe working for the communists. Foreshadowing? No, not really. After escaping the station, we meet our fellow blacksmith from the first game that gives us a cart, and I actually do appreciate the developers for giving us a vehicle that we can use in this segment of the game. Although it is limited, it's nice to have control over the vehicle, like you can control if you want to move forward, back, or to just get out of the vehicle entirely.
Well, the MC. Oh, run it again. Well, no, it's paid up. Run it again.
After escaping the station, we come across some survivors, and this is where I don't really understand the game. So you're telling me that the kind-hearted ranger I am heard that their people got taken away by some raiders, and we can actually hear them cry and scream for help from the torture and the nasty things they're about to do to them. But when I see this woman and can hear her screams from the nasty things this raider is about to do to them, I kill him because he's a fucking piece of shit, but I lose morality. So this game has a morale system, and it's depending on how many people you've killed throughout the game or how many people you've donated to or helped to, and that will impact the ending you get at the end of the game. But it doesn't make sense to lose morale for killing a guy who is clearly bad as it gets and is about to do something really bad to this innocent woman. Like, I just don't understand it. I can understand like saving some characters or like just raiders that they don't really know what they're doing, you can just knock them out, that's fine. But like a guy who's about to do something really bad to an innocent woman and you lose morale for killing him. Although I think this segment is nice to the game, it is kind of slow as nothing really important happens. Our two main goals is to find the Dark One and to find Pavel, because we learned that he is planning on raiding the D6 bunker and we need to get there before he gets the information further to his superiors. What I do like is the different enemy types you have in this game. In the first game you only had the creatures and the Dark Ones, but here you get like shrimps, bears, and other even mutated creatures. Of course, the base roster of the enemy types comes from the first game, but there's also new additions. There's even boss fights in this game. And it really seems like the developers are trying to improve and that they learned their lesson from the first game, as we are trying to they're trying to show and explore different areas of the metro and the outside world as we travel from like the sewers, the metro center, the different kinds of buildings, even a garden at some point, and like the different apartment buildings on the surface. It's really good stuff. Another good thing is the different stations you visit in this game. In the first game you only had a handful. I mean, you visited quite a lot of stations in the first game, but you couldn't really do anything in them. Here we get a little bit more with like shooting ranges, the different type of vendors and stuff. But although I would have wanted to see the game allow me to browse the different shops, like the food vendors and whatnot. I think it would be cool to talk even to more NPCs that we're allowed to. Like, there's some minor side quests in some of the stations. For example, when you're going to the thieving station, I don't remember the name, but there is a boy crying for his bear, and you can actually win that bear back because you heard that he lost it in the shooting range, so you can win it back to gain some morale points for that. And in this station, it's apparently full of thieves and scum, like apart from all the different stations, and I think the developer missed an opportunity here with us getting robbed or something, because like you can hear the like governor or like the mayor of this station, he's like, oh, you better be careful, nobody is safe around here, there's like a lot of scum here and thieves, they just butcher and rob everyone they see, but nothing really happens to us. The only thing we can really do is buy a strip dance, which makes the game instantly a 10 out of 10 because there's a half naked woman in the game now. But we see that Pavel is also at this station and we follow him, but unfortunately he gets away when a citizen tries to take him out. So instead he helps us to get out of the station into the open world to try to find another way onto Pavel. This part of the game I really like because we get more of an open world feeling to the game, with the area giving us more option to explore and to see how the world is, like the different structures, the different vehicles that are scattered around the surface. Getting deeper onto the surface, we get a signal from our group, the Rangers, and they tell us to meet them at the church up ahead, but once we get there, well... yeah, like I said before, this game has bosses, but not the good kind at all. They're just honestly bullet sponges, and this is where I realized that the hardest difficulty is really bad as fuck. Like, you can throw 100 grenades at them, coupled with some fucking bullets, and it doesn't feel like you're doing any damage at all. This is the worst part of the game, as the bosses in this game are a pure fucking joke. And the best part is that I had to fire my high exclusive deluxe edition bullets at the boss, which led me to being a fucking broke ass bitch, so I couldn't even like progress further.
You're broke! You're fucking poor!
After defeating the boss, we finally reunite with our squad and Anna, and Artyom seems to be kind of relieved to see Anna again, not fully knowing why, but he realized that she probably felt bad for leaving him out there when he got captured by the Nazis in the first segment of the game. But everything is not as it seems, as someone knocks at the door and gives an old password the Rangers used back in the day, and we realize that it's Letninsky, the supposed traitor of the Rangers, and yeah, he was a traitor, and he explodes the door and he takes Anna away, and we are forced to follow them. We go through some catacombs, and this part is really good, as for most of the sections you can't even use your electronic stuff, such as the night vision we picked up before heading into the church and the flashlight. I just like it because it makes you feel vulnerable, and it not being able to see everything around you, so you're like, oh, constantly thinking, fuck, there's someone behind me, there's a bear, there's a creature right behind me. And I didn't have any bullets at this part of the segment, so I really had to be careful with how many bullets I wanted to waste, and if there was someone actually behind me, when I just had this puny little bullet lighter with me, you know. Going deeper into the cave, we actually spot a rhino mutant, and yep, here's another boss fight that's just bad as one as the Shrimp King, or whatever you want to call him. So at first I started to push loads, like all of my fucking bullets and all my grenades towards him, until I ran out of grenades and bullets. So I thought, maybe I'm fucking dumb, maybe the smooth-brained gamer I am, I wasn't supposed to do that, and I was supposed to make him run towards these pillars and the walls instead, because there's like a segment where there's a bunch of stone walls and like fences around. So I was like, oh, I'll get him to run towards the pillars to knock them down, and I'll make the ceiling crumble right above him. But nope. That wasn't it. I made him destroy the whole foundation of the cave, and yet I had to knife him to death. So I think it would have been a lot cooler if I had to use the environment to actually kill him, because it turned out that he just had a tiny bit of health left that I had to knife him, because all the bullets actually did some damage, but it didn't feel like it to me. So I was like, what was the point of this environment when there's pillars that he can clearly knock down, and he actually does, but nothing happens. The only thing that happens is that it forces you to progress further when the cave eventually falls in with the water, so you can surface up, or like go up to the surface with the water. Once we get out of the cave, we learn that the communists have taken Anna to another station, and yeah, I'm not even gonna try to pronounce that station name, I'm sorry, I know. And this is another great part of the game. As you can see, this station is taken over by the communists, and they're pillaging and burning everything, and I feel it fits the aesthetic really well, especially when you're in the metro. You know, it's a confined small space. You can see everything burning, and there's just smoke and like mayhem everywhere, and they're just like fucking shitting and joking around while you're trying to like actually find some good hiding spots so they don't see you. Meet Pavel yet again, but he has Anna hostage, and I fucked up here by not listening to him, and I shot him instead. And you can actually take your gas mask off and give it to Anna instead if you listen to the full dialogue Pavel gives you. But I was just like, oh, I thought the mission would fail if I would just shoot him, because he's like, oh, Artyom, no, 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 don't raise that gun against me. And as soon as I gain control, I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna fucking shoot him. I'm just gonna shoot him in the head and save Anna, you know. But apparently I had to listen to the entire dialogue he had, so I had the option to take off my gas mask. So either choice we make, we get rescued by the Rangers and we're taken to the hospital where we have some deep talk with Anna. I don't really understand the relationship Anna has because with Artyom, because there hasn't been any development whatsoever with Artyom and Anna, and all of a sudden Anna wants to fuck. I guess you might be explaining that Anna just wants someone nearby in these dark times, or that she was really grateful of Artyom that he gave her the gas mask, although I shot Pavel on this playthrough, so I'm not really sure. Given the context of the last game, it makes sense because Anna and Artyom end up together, but we don't have that. People, when they played this game in 2013, they didn't have the context that they were gonna end up together, so it was just, alright, yeah, cool. But either way, we meet Khan that seems really keen on trying to find the little dark one, so he takes us to a river where we are able to see him and actually see other events that both we as a player have made and other people have made, such as Khan. And I also like this cutscene because it shows that our actions have consequences. As we bombed the Dark One's nest in the first game, it shows like the flashback of Artyom standing on top of the tower and sending the nukes on top of them. And Khan also gives a nice little message that we can actually change fate. We just have to be better. We have to be the better man in all of this. So once we're out of the Zaza trip, Khan realizes that the Dark One is on a train that is under communist control. So we go shoot and get to the train to meet the Dark One. And this is one of my favorite and most important cutscenes in this entire game to build Artyom's character, with us showing that he actually had an encounter with the Dark One as a child and they were actually protecting him. We also learn in this cutscene that the Dark Ones actually can speak and Artyom can communicate them, but for some reason, I guess this was a plot hole because in the first game there was none of that, but in this game we can actually see in the flashback that as a kid Artyom did actually connect and communicate with a fully grown adult Dark One. Artyom was alive when the bombs first fell, so he experienced the world before, like before the bombs fell. He experienced the cars, the beauty, the sunset, everything, until he was left alone without his mom or dad, until he met the Dark Ones when he was protecting him as a child. Unfortunately, mirroring Artyom, the little Dark One that is just all alone feels just as Artyom did once before, since he bombed his family. The little Dark One doesn't have any family left, so it perfectly mirrors Artyom and him and the connection they have between one another. After rescuing him, we actually go to an even more open area of the game, and this part is so good, with us being able to traverse in the overworld and actually having this cute little commentary from the Dark One.
Look, I'm like you, with clothes.
He is actually pretty useful, especially on higher difficulty, as he sometimes will bring you filters and ammo, and it has actually helped me quite a lot, especially during this segment, because there's a lot of creatures that want to kill you, and I remember running out of bullets, quite a handful, and he was just coming there. Here you go, sir. Here's fucking 509mm bullets. As we head deeper, we actually come across the old station the Ranger used to be stationed at Polis, but unfortunately it's run by communists and we have to dispatch them to move forward. And one cool detail as well is that the Dark One actually gives you vision because you have a stronger bond with him. So he has this sense of like, oh, he's fully red, he's yellow, or he's green, basically implying the intention to kill. So when they're fully red, they're like, oh, they just want to kill everybody, you know. Yellow is conflicted, and then green is like, he's good, you know. But Lentnisky was actually at the station, and we take him out, and we learn that the Dark One also has a power of giving us a glimpse into another person's mind, with him touching the other person and then touching us. We also learned that the communists have another plan with a virus that they're planning on releasing across all the metro stations, so that they're all the only people alive, because Nazis and communists are apparently working together now. Once we get out of the station, we get to the city once again, and we get these amazing flashbacks of the previous life and how it was before the bombs fell. We go to the apartments, seeing how people reacted to when the first bombs fell, how they handled it. We can see the dead people, like the children crying out for their mother. It's really amazing and interesting stuff, and I wish they would have added more of these flashbacks. I know there is quite a lot of these flashbacks, but I just wish we had a more lengthy segment of this. And yet again, it's another great area as we are in these confined small apartments, and then we go to the garden area, a little bit more open, into the swamps, into the like land surface or whatever you want to call it. We're quickly stopped by our dear comrade Pavel that set a trap for us. Once we get there, we are forced to kill the enemies until we get to him, and boy was this part hard. One thing I did notice is that the enemies that are trying to kill us were green because the Dark One gave me the vision. So I thought I could knock them all out, but I was forced to kill them because they were all in the buildings, they were sniping me. There was no way in hell I would have gotten to the apartments. This also got me thinking if because me killing them when they had no real intention to kill me, as the game established that green doesn't mean they want to kill me, if I lost a lot of morality points for killing them, because I saw no other way to do this. I don't know, maybe I should have watched another walkthrough on like the good high morality ending where you can actually maybe avoid all the fight, but I just decided to kill all of them. Once we took care of the enemy, we actually go to Pavel and we look into his mind and learn that he is planning to raid D6, and I don't really understand why the game thinks it's a big reveal when we've already known this for some reason, but they decided to show it for whatever reason. Just like with Letninsky, we get a choice to save or kill Pavel, and I chose to save him in order to get the good ending, and I thought I was on the right track, as the Dark One said.
You will live. So that's what forgiveness is. Thank you. I'll remember this.
Moving towards, we get an open field, and yet again we have a boss fight, and fair enough, it isn't as bad as the previous ones with you even having the option to spare the boss. It makes sense because it's a big bear, and before we got into the boss area we can see small bear cubs playing, so the Dark One says that the bear mama was just trying to protect her children. So I decided to save the bear because it was just pure instinct. She was just trying, she didn't know if he wanted to kill her bears or not, so I decided to let her live. After the boss fight, we finally meet Miller and Khan. They are both able to see the Dark One, and Khan is having a full-on fucking boner, being able to talk one and just actually meeting one. Miller is not as hyped to meet the Dark One. He actually tries to kill him, but he's still somehow cool about it. The Dark One sees that Miller is actually yellow, so he's conflicted if he wants to kill him or save him. I just have to say, I just love this little fucker. Like, he's so cute, especially when he transforms into a kid.
Who released the virus? But the Reds tried to break through into Hans's territory. We could make Mosk then.
We go with Khan and Miller to some sort of council meetings with like 4 other different parties, like the Communists, the Nazis, the Rangers, and some other party. And the Dark One actually goes to the Communist general and goes inside his head and exposes him. And I was quite unsure what happened here, as it established that the Dark One needs to touch one person and the other to read each other's minds, or like the one of the person's minds, but when he just touches the general and everybody seems to know what he did. Yeah, his plans of raiding D6 are finally exposed, so as a final act of heroism we rush to D6 to defend it, and we learn that there is a locked door in D6 that actually houses the Dark Ones, as they have been hibernating, and the little Dark One is so excited to meet his family. And of course, what would be a first-person shooter without a big shootout in the final mission? We as the Rangers tried to hold off the Communist Party to our best effort, and we actually they had another fucking train, and with no other option we decide to bomb D6 and leave no survivors. The end. So here's the problem yet again with Metro. I didn't kill anyone that I wasn't forced to, and I only killed a handful of people in the beginning since I didn't know that I could knock them out. I went out of my way to save Pavel, save Letninsky, win the teddy bear for the kid, donated a lot of bullets for the people in need, and yet again I get the bad ending for some reason. 2 games in a row have I received a bad ending on the first playthrough, and I don't know if I'm just fucking dumb as fuck and don't understand these games, but I'm fairly sure I do, and still I somehow got the bad ending. Luckily there's only 2 endings in Last Light. The bad ending, the one I got, is where Artyom blows up the station, taking him out and taking out everything, and then there's some monologue of Anna actually being pregnant with Artyom's child, and she tells what a hero Artyom was for taking everybody out and then saving the whole metro station. And the good ending is slightly different, with Artyom and the Rangers surviving, and as he is about to explode D6, the Dark One comes with his family and helps them in order to survive. And of course this is the canon ending, as Artyom doesn't really die because there is another game, so So like I said before, when I saved Pavel, the Dark One says, oh, so this is what forgiveness is. So I thought he would have a bigger role in the ending, and he does in the good ending, but what's the point of him knowing what forgiveness is if he doesn't help me on my playthrough? But that's not really the ending of the game, because I do have to mention that this game has DLC that varies from dog shit, that gives you a literal mode to play as DLC, and some good DLC where you have like a game mode where you're scavenging for resources on the surface, then you go back to the vendor to buy some more stuff, and then you go back out so you can push forward even more with the resources you have now. Like the juicy DLC that you get with the game is kind of fitting in the main story. It's the Chronicles pack that gives you the perspective of Khan, Anna and Pavel. I think it's great side content that gives more character to all three characters, especially Anna, with me feeling that she didn't even try to rescue me when we got captured in the first game. But when you play the DLC, you can actually see that she did try, and she was kind of forced to leave you because there were just so many Nazis surrounding the areas, and she did the best she could. And I asked myself why they made dogshit DLC like with the Ranger mode when it was a staple in the first games. And of course it's not a problem some years later as you get the deluxe edition, but the only thing I could really find out at the time is that 4A Games, the developer at the time, had their publishers go bankrupt, and they were working for Last Light, and I'm guessing that the developers tried to make money somehow, get their money back I guess, but to their credit they still gave us some extra nice content for those who want more. And it's not really a problem, like I said, some years later when you have the Redux edition that just includes all the DLC, so you don't really even think about it, but I can still take it into perspective with how players felt at that time when they were buying the game at first. Overall, I think Metro Last Light is a really good game, and it's a huge improvement from the first game. I think this is where the game franchise really seemed to take off, and especially when the developers learned from their mistakes in Last Light to make the perfect Metro game, Metro Exodus. I would recommend this game for anyone who hasn't tried Metro, but I would maybe say don't play on the hardest difficulty if you haven't played the previous titles, because let me tell you, some segments of my playthrough were literally unplayable, as I didn't know if I could pick up these guns, where the different checkpoints were, where the different interactables were. What I also didn't like is that I played in the hardest difficulty in the first game, and the UI was still enabled and I could see like my ammo and everything I had, but in this game it was way more limiting and just challenging for no reason. Like, it was just dumb, I think. But that's for me. I think I've said everything I wanted to say about Metro Last Light. Like I said, overall it's a great game. I really recommend it. If you don't have anything to play right now, you could probably pick it up for like $5. You have some great moments, you will have a great time, so just go and pick it up. I am trying to do some more different content as well, especially now during the summer when I have a bit more free time. I want to do some other content, try to vary it a little bit, you know, but I'm gonna still do Metro Exodus. I'm gonna try to do different games as well. So if you like this video, feel free to subscribe to see what other projects I'll be working on. Hopefully it will be as good as this one or my previous works. And I hope you all are taking care of yourselves. I hope I see you in the next video, and I love you all. See ya.